Good morning, everybody. I am excited to be doing this pop-up live. This is something new that we're going to be trying this year called BME Labs, where we come in and try new content, new ideas, and share what we're learning and what we're up to. And also, it's an opportunity that I wanted to share with everyone as well, that you can kind of see an example of what it's like to be in BME crew, like my good friend and one of our clients here, Michelle, is. And so BME Crew is where you can get support with strategy, with creating marketing assets, really with having a full team behind you that can help you scale and grow your marketing effectively. And so you get to see that in live action today. So thanks for coming on, Michelle, today. I appreciate you being here. And I thought we could start out with you just telling us a little bit about what Jubilee for Wellness is all about, and then we can go from there.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Gabe.
Yeah.
So Jubilee Wellness is not only a line of CBD and essential oils that I started myself about 6 years ago. It's also a local community and an online community where I help people learn about essential oils and CBD products that might help them with possible sleep issues, pain issues, any kind of stress they might be experiencing that's keeping them from functioning the way they want to function.
And how long have you been in business now, Michelle?
It's been about 6 years. And I began when my mom had, she was diagnosed with leukemia. And so it was a pretty stressful time. And I wanted to help her along holistically as much as possible, while also working with her doctors and getting her the best care that I could.
Yeah, and I've known Michelle for quite a few years now, and like I mentioned earlier, she's a part of BME Crew, and she reached out and asked the crew here at BME what would be an effective way to write a book. And one of the things that Nathan and I will chat a little bit more about here too as well, but one of the things that's really valuable when you take time to sit down and write a book is you can replicate yourself into multiple conversations. Meaning like you don't have to repeat yourself over and over, but you can create a resource and a guide that people can use, you can reference. I'm always a big proponent of creating books in such a way that they're how-to manuals, they're guides, there's resources that you can point people to. Even if it's just, you can pull out your book, your PDF, or if you end up printing something, which we'll talk about a little bit later too. It's really great to have something you can say, oh, like, here's my book. In chapter 2, I talk about this specific thing, or here's my book in end of chapter 3. If you read about this, it will help you understand that process. And not only do you get to be in front of more people and serve them more effectively, but it will also save time, and it helps you really crystallize how you want to teach and show up and serve. And it also can make you an authority compared to other people out there that haven't taken the time to write a book or really serve at that level. And so it's definitely something that can be very valuable and helpful. And so the starting process, like, so this is just kind of a live pop-up quick workshop here that we're going to walk through. But the starting thing that we always want to look at is what are the main topics that you want to cover? And so I asked Michelle to write out a simple kind of outline here of what her book was going to be about. And this is definitely something that I would recommend everybody do in the beginning, making sure that you have some clarity about what you want to cover and what topics you want to cover in your book, rather than jumping straight to AI or asking somebody else to do this. I always recommend that our clients in BME Crew do this themselves, because it'll help you get some clarity about where you want to go. So I know you put this together, Michelle, but why don't you just talk through like kind of the opening and the first couple chapters, like what you're planning to share on here and why you want to get this book out there.
Sure. Well, I do want to add that when you asked me to create this outline, it was so beneficial, even just putting 20 minutes into it, to see the topics that I talk about in a format and an order that I would write a book in. So just like right away, I was seeing the benefits of creating this outline.
Good.
So first of all, sharing my story. And sometimes I do hesitate sharing it because I've shared it so many times, that I worry that I've already said it. Maybe I don't need to say it again. But it reminded me how many new people are, finding me online and being sent to me by family or friends, and they might not know the whole story. So sharing my story and then sharing my credentials of, what I've done the last 5-6 years within the cannabis space locally and online, and then also my training as an aromatherapist and as a cannabis educator. So sharing that. And then there's some very basic information about CBD and cannabis that is still not clear to everyone. And, what some people are afraid to try CBD. What if it's illegal? What if it gets them high and that's not what they're going for? And so being able to bring that safety measure, that clarity, being able to comfort them, letting them know that there are so many ways to use hemp, cannabis, CBD products without changing your state. You're not going to know you're taking it. You might be a little more relaxed, but you're not going to be floating through the universe or anything.
That's good. Nice. So you've got essentially opening up with your story, which I think is good. And in that section, I would definitely focus on telling your story and making sure as you tell it, you're putting in kind of those explanations and the content and the whys of how your story is going to help your reader so that they can understand you, understand what you went through, but also you can, drop pieces in there about like, I went through this and this is why I'm really passionate about helping people with this, this issue or these challenges. And also for me, at least, Michelle, it may be different for you, but when I get into telling my story, I tend to get rabbit trail or get really wordy or go a bunch of different directions. And so in that section, I would recommend that you kind of break it down into 3 or 4, main sections of the story. Like, here's how I started when my mom got leukemia. This is what I did next. Here was the hard part, and then here was the good outcome. Like keeping it more of a summary. At least for me, I can go on and on about it, which is great when I'm talking in person with somebody and there's something specific that I need to dive into it with them. But when I try to just do it on my own, it ends up running away on me. That could just be me, but I throw that in there. I also like that you've got just essentially 7, chapters here. You've got a few points under each one, which is really good. And the process that we're going to walk through is basically you just talking through what you would want to cover in each chapter. And then obviously, like we talked about earlier, preparing for this, I'm going to show you how to take that, put it in ChatGPT, and that way you will have people reading your exact words, but you can really accelerate the writing process and get the message and the education out there that you want.
That's fantastic.
So in this case, I think because I would probably, this is what's coming up for me, I would probably record and write all the chapters first, and then I would write my story kind of introductory part and the summary last. I would bookend those at the end. What I'll have you do is, like we talked about, you're going to use a tool, and for those that don't know what this is, I will put it in the comments here and throw it up here. But you'll use Voxer, and that is going to be, if anybody hasn't used that, it's Voxer.com. But I'll have you step away while Nathan and I are going to talk about some more of the strategies and things around book marketing. You can record all your thoughts, like kind of in order of potentially how you want chapter 1 to work in Voxer. You can just box those to me. And for those watching, when you pay for Voxer Pro, which I think is like $50 a year or something relatively affordable, you can hit the, after an audio message, there's a little button, a little T icon. If you hit that, it will transcribe the message, and then you have, exactly what you spoke, transcribed, and that's what I'm going to be copying and pasting into ChatGPT here in a little bit. But do you have any other questions, Michelle, before we have you pop off and record that? Oh, looks like you're muted there, Michelle.
Is there an amount of information that you suggest for getting started, just like a 2 or 3 minute Voxer? Is that right? Or a little longer?
Yeah, try to go like 3 to 5 minutes. So try to like
Okay.
think like you've essentially got like, your main topic there and kind of three sub points. Maybe spend like a minute or so on each one. But just speak what comes to mind. Don't like create filler content, but you have plenty of time. So I would go like 3 to 5 minutes, and then like I
Okay.
said, when you're done, I'll have you pop back on, and then I'll share my screen and walk through some things on my side too. So
Great. Thanks.
all right, so Michelle's gonna head off and record that, and we'll bring her back in a minute. But while she's doing that, I wanted to bring Nathan on because Nathan's one of our marketing strategists here and does a lot with our BME crew clients as well. And wanted to see from your side, Nathan, what have you seen that's been working well for our clients as it relates to like books and as lead magnets, and what kind of questions came up for you as we were walking through this with Michelle?
Yeah, so my experience with books as lead magnets highlight a few different areas. A couple of them I'll talk about real quick. First is target audience. A book allows you to target a specific audience. And with having a book as a lead magnet, it allows you to tailor the content in the book to address specific pain points and interests of your market, which will ensure that it resonates with your ideal client base. So basically, you can take the product that you're wanting the people at the end of the funnel to go to and use the book as a way to guide them there by providing relevant information or anything of that kind of sort as it relates to your product. So target audience is big. Another one of them is lead generation. As business owners, a lot of people are always worried about leads. So it does tie into lead generation. It serves as a lead magnet because what you do is you offer valuable content to your audience. You can implement strategies like offering a free chapter, the whole book, downloadable resources, or et cetera, in exchange for email signups or information. So you can use that book as a tool to gather information from your ideal client base. And that leads to my last point on that, which is funnel integration. Once you have that information from the prospects from getting your book, you can nurture those leads by using the content of your book to relate that to them on calls. You can convert them by illustrating the role the book plays in the customer journey. So kind of in the sales process, you can really target the audience, tie it into lead generation by getting their information in exchange for the lead magnet, and then nurture that lead because you got their information regarding the book that you created.
Yeah, it's definitely a good. It's absolutely a great way for us to get our information out there, and like you said, it can be anywhere from top of the funnel to, you can be selling the book. It can be, something that you're actually selling, and it's definitely a great way to get your audience to trust you more. Because I was in a mastermind a couple of weeks ago, and somebody there, where we were talking about a really technical topic with email validation and DMARCs and all those types of things. And one of the guys, one of my friends there that is in the mastermind, he said, I wrote a book on this. And I'm like, oh, cool. And I'm like, I want to read this right now because there was a piece that I wasn't really sure on. And he's like, in chapter 2, this will cover it all for you. So I bought his book, immediately read the chapter. It was really clear and easy to understand. And now I know, like, if I get stuck with anything, he's definitely the guy I would go talk to as it relates to like some of those things. And so you're right, it's definitely a process that allows us to replicate our information out into the world, like we talked about earlier on, build trust and it can bring in really high quality prospects. The thing I think that I've seen myself struggle with and other people struggle with sometimes is that when you put something out there, like when you create a book or you create any piece of any lead magnet or any marketing asset like that, we put a ton of time into it. We know everything that's inside of it. We know it front and back, as we should anyway, and then we put it out there and we get bored with it. But like Michelle kind of touched on this earlier, where she said, well, I forget to tell my story, or I feel like people have already heard it. And in reality, I wanted to mention, when she brought that up, it made me think of a friend of mine, Ray Higdon. He's been in the network marketing industry for probably a couple decades now, well over a decade. And when we met, I started following his content, and then we connected and did some work together, ended up becoming friends after that. And he, almost every single video tells his story, and he's done a video a day for 15 years or something like that. So he's really dedicated to his process and his craft, and he's always been a great reminder to me that everybody needs to be reminded of your story, and telling it over and over again is super powerful. And so even if you get tired of something, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't keep using it, and have your audience keep hearing it.
Yeah, and that ties into another reason that books are a powerful tool in the marketing space is credibility. Being able to be accredited and have a work like a book out there in the market will help convert people to following you and consuming your content, because people automatically connect authors to a reliable source of information. So if you write a book, you're automatically considered that by the mass public. And so you can use that content and break it down as well, right? Into using chapters as blog posts, or using excerpts from the book as social media posts. It's essentially an evergreen asset. Once you create that book, you can really use it for it's very multi-purpose.
Yeah.
It can be a lead magnet. It can be your offer, in so many different ways. The book can be tremendously valuable and add credit to you and your brand.
Yeah, you're right. I like what you said there too, Nathan, because it's, again, something that when you create the work or you're really invested in it, it's easy to forget that you can multi-use, you can splinter that off and use it in multiple places. Because if you pull out quotes or sections from the book, like you said, it's great for email content, for social media content, you can even just pull up a section and talk about that on video. And one of the things that I am intent on improving as an entrepreneur this year is not allowing myself to think that I have to create something new all the time, but rather saying, what are the big hits? What are the things that have worked before? How can I refresh and update those and offer those again? Because once we have working offers in the market, as entrepreneurs, at least I have done this, maybe nobody else has done this, and sometimes we just abandon them and create something new. And it's because we always want to create, we always want to lead and help and do more, which those are all good intentions. But ultimately, if we're only focused on like what the new thing is we can create, then we will forget to promote aggressively the things that are working, and we'll keep ourselves at a lower level. We'll keep ourselves, flatter revenue wise and impact wise, if we're not realizing that we should catalog and collect our winners. And as we grow as entrepreneurs, the longer we are in business, we should be promoting our winners, and spending as much effort and time there, instead of thinking we need to create something brand new.
Yeah, as the great Alex Hormozy said, niches are riches. So if you find something that's working, don't be afraid to buckle down on it. Change can be inevitable, and creating new things can also be very beneficial. But buckling down on what you already have, or like we were talking about earlier, telling your story again, there's always somebody new that hasn't heard about you, and it always builds into your brand and credibility. So never be afraid to tell your story. A lot of people, I've talked about this with Gabe a lot, but in the space that we're in with the rise of video marketing and TikTok and these things, a lot of people are very interested in what business owners are doing. So people are actively seeking out that information on who are you as a person? Why should I trust you? We're in a very information dense technological age. So me being from a younger generation, before I consume any product, read a book, do anything, I look up the reviews. I look up what other people are saying, because all that information is easily accessed on the internet. One quick Google search and I can find out everything I need to know about Gabe Arnold. So you got to remember that other people are doing that. So don't be afraid to tell your story, because people are looking for it.
Yeah. And then as you start to establish your personal brand, which that's why we're talking today about like how to write your books and how to get things out there, ultimately then you can expand that and say, here's the work I've done, but here's how it's impacted somebody else. You can bring people on and they can share testimonials. They can share how the process worked. You can continue to demonstrate what you offer. And I don't remember who said this to me, and if it was their quote or it was from somewhere else, but it really stuck with me at a mastermind I was at a couple of years ago. And they said, marketing is demonstrating the value of what you offer to your market. And that way, when they need it, they know that you have the valuable option, you have the right resources. And so that's something that I always think about, is like, how can we consistently and continually, demonstrate the value of what we offer? Is it through putting a book out there? Is it through doing live videos and demos? Is it sending email? Is it doing in-person events? Is it, what is the way that we can ultimately, demonstrate the most value? And so that's what marketing is about, is putting your message out in front of the right people and showing how you can actually serve them. So
absolutely.
Looks like Michelle's back here. So if you want to unmute Michelle and let me know how that went, because I realized after I asked you to do that I've been having problems with Voxer this morning. So
yes, I am too. I've recorded several messages. It still says waiting. Actually, I sent you a Voxer yesterday and it never went through. I don't know what's happening.
Okay, that's all right. We're gonna demonstrate the well, theoretically, we'll see. We might do a part 2 on this, which is why I said this is BME Labs, where we try new things. Might break, right. And they may or may not work, but let me see here. So I'm going to go ahead and just walk through the next steps so that you can do this when Voxer behaves for you, Michelle. Theoretically, I think what you recorded will upload and be able to be processed here in a minute. And so, or when it gets ready. And so I'll just talk you through kind of what I would do next here. We'll go from there, because amazing timing of I've never seen Voxer be offline. So
I haven't
feeling
either.
the Monday.
Right.
So there's a simple path, and then there's a more advanced path, and so we'll cover both of those here, and then maybe we'll do a part 2. We'll see how that goes, or do a follow up with you, Michelle. But when you get that transcript from Voxer, and you can also get a transcript from Loom or any tool like that, I would simply go in here and write a simple prompt like this that says using the following text, and I wouldn't say transcript, because when I put the word transcript in there, it wants to write a summary, and I don't want a summary. So I'll say, like, using the following text, write me a long form article about CBD uses, or whatever it might be. I'll put a basic prompt in there, and then I'll paste the text below. And my goal is to get it to write a long form article, and ideally you've got like 7 chapters. I would, based on what I saw in your outline, Michelle, I would look at creating something that's maybe like 10,000 words long, maybe 15,000 words long. I wouldn't worry about it being super long, because you just want it to be super actionable, and you want to be able to give this to anybody that walks into your store, or anybody that emails you, that buys with you online. When they ask a question about this, you just say, oh, like, this whole book will help you, or chapter 1 is really helpful with this, or anything like that. And so don't worry about the length of it. Just make sure, overall, just make sure it's really actionable and really clear. And so I like to just put this in here and tell it to write the article for me. And I also am very clear in the prompt that it says, please make sure that you write using my word style and tone from this text. So I'm very clear that I don't want it to change the tone of it. And all right, maybe it will come back online for us here. Open up Voxer again. It's behaving for me, Michelle. So see if it'll send through. But I'll see if that happens in the meantime. My message actually is sent to you finally, so I'll see if it goes the other way. But so that's the first thing that I do, is just jump into, just an open channel. And once I start writing my book in here, I will always use the same chat thread to keep building out the rest of the topics, because each channel that you create, each chat channel that you create in ChatGPT is going to memorize your tone, your style, everything you want it to do. So if you're just starting with a generic ChatGPT chat like I've shown here, then once I wrote this chapter, then I would write the next chapter in here as well. And so ultimately, the more that refined you are in your instructions and everything, you can train one channel to behave in a certain way. Does that make sense, Michelle?
Yes, absolutely. I'm taking notes on that. I forgot that it will mimic our tone and use our own voice. That's fantastic.
Yeah. So that's what's awesome about putting your own voice and style in there, which I don't worry about how I say it. I just talk like I talk to somebody else. It'll do all the cleanup for that. Yeah. And so that's a great way to get it to write back in your exact words. It's really important, but you do need to tell it, like, write me this long form article. Please make sure you use the style and tone of what I wrote in the text below. And that's one way to do it. And then just train the whole channel here.
Nice.
The other thing that we'll just touch on for a few minutes, and for anybody watching, and of course any of our BME crew members that want help with this, you can also build your own GPT, which means you can basically program a chat channel to always have pre-written instructions and everything that you want it to do in there. And so I'll touch on that and just kind of walk through the basics of it. But you go under Explore GPTs, you go to create a GPT, and then on the left-hand side here, you have, it's asking you to create it. And this is where I would paste a lot of my transcripts in and say, please train this GPT to write with this style and tone, with the words and, you know, the way that I speak. That would be the first thing I'd train it with. And then if there was other like technical documentation or like more scientific or specific things that I would want, I would click over here on the configure tab. And then I would upload, you know, multiple files, and that way it will reference whatever's in that file. So if you have written longer form content before, or a short ebook or something, or if you read somebody that you're like, I really like the style of what they talk about, you can put this in here as reference information. You can also, after you put the text in that you want it to mimic for like style and tone, you can also put in the chat GPT a simple message like this on the configure side that says, please make sure that you can handle evaluating long form text up to, I put even like 30,000 words in here, but I'll put 20,000 words here. And then I can also say something like, I'll let that run so you can kind of see how that looks. But I'm also going to say something that says, make sure that all the responses back when I'm asking for long form articles are at least 1,500 words or at least 2,000 words. So now it says it's set up to evaluate long form text, and then I'll say, please be sure to write at least, let's see, 2,000 words in length when I ask for long form post responses. And so you can really set it up in such a way that it's going to do exactly what you want, and you can program this so that it knows your tone and style, and knows the length of responses you want, and all those things. So I'll let this run, and you can see it'll come back and say, and it's made up its own ChatGPT name to it, Deep Analysis or something. But now if I were to come in here and test it before I click save and use it, I could test it and see what kind of responses it comes back for, and it will bring that back. I can also tell it, you know, what I want to name this and all those things. I'm not going to save this one, but I'll go back to kind of the main view here. And the reason that it would be valuable to create your own GPT is because then you could call it like book writing assistant or whatever it might be. And you can open, if you want to, you'll click in here, and you can open a new chat every time, or you can keep training the same chat, but it's going to have that background knowledge and information of what your tone is, the style, what words to use, how you write. It's also going to know when you say you want a long form post, it's going to return a bunch of content back for you instead of giving you a short summary style content. And so ultimately, if we're going to break down the kind of basics of how to write your book with GPT, is use a tool where you can just talk into it and it's going to bring back a transcript. talk through each section or each chapter, and then take that transcript, ask ChatGPT to expand on it, and write a long form post from it. And then I would take either in your working document or a new document, and like if you just did chapter 1, I would paste the long form content in here. Then I would do that same exercise for each chapter. So you have the draft content, and then I would go through without any AI, this is the way I prefer to do it, and just read that, edit it, tie it together, clean up something if it's not completely accurate or it's not exactly how you'd say it, and kind of do a rough pass of editing. Then once I think I've edited it, then I like to read it out loud to myself, or to somebody else, ideally, if somebody will listen to you that long, but at least read it to yourself. And that way you'll catch any mistakes. And at that point, then you can make the decision, like, does this read smooth enough? Am I happy with it? I want to make it into an ebook now. Do I want to have an editor, look at it? And of course, if you're in BME Crew, we can edit it for you. And ultimately, I would recommend for somebody walking through this process to first publish it as an ebook and share it and see what people think of it. And then if you're getting traction and it's helping you solve business problems and you're getting the result that you want, then look at publishing on Amazon. And you can publish a paperback version. I believe that there is you're going to have to figure out like a minimum length for what's printable on Amazon.
Yeah.
It's based on like layout size and word count, but I think 15,000 words will print. That's something, of course, the BME Crew team can always tell you exactly what that looks like. Our team knows exactly what those requirements are. But basically, it's write your outline, record your audio with whatever tool will give you a transcript, put that transcript text into ChatGPT and get it to extend it for you, paste it back into the document, and do that for each major section or chapter. Then, go through that draft and clean it up and do any editing. And then from there, you have your book manuscript and you can move into the publication and promotion process. So that's the basics of what the process looks like. And also for all of our clients that are in BME Crew, if you need help writing the outline, or if you want us to write the outline and you record the audio and we do the rest of the work for you, we can handle the back end. But I believe with this process, you could probably, in about 8 hours, write a 15,000 word, maybe even 20,000 word book by leveraging what AI can do for us. So I appreciate you asking this, Michelle, and us being able to walk everybody through this. So what other questions do you have, Michelle?
I really don't. I just want to get started. It's amazing.
Awesome. Cool. Well, why don't you walk through it and definitely share with me how the progress looks. We can look at having you back on and see what the final result looks like. But I appreciate you being part of this, being one of our BME Crew clients, and also jumping on this new kind of pop-up thing we're trying called BME Labs, where we jump in and do on-the-fly kind of workshop stuff together. But appreciate you being here. And for everybody that tuned in, be sure to drop any comments down below for any questions you have. I'd be glad to answer those. Nathan or myself will jump in and answer those. And last but not least, if you haven't checked out what Michelle's up to, I'll throw this up again. You can go to jubileeofwellness.com. Michelle is an expert in sleep and helping people use natural products and processes to get there. And she's been super helpful for me. She's a client of mine, but I'm also a client of hers, and I've been for quite a long time because she puts out amazing products that really get great results for me. And one of the things that I can just always tell by all the interaction and on top of that, just how I feel in taking her products is that they're really made with love, and that means a lot to me. And so the energy behind things is super important to me, and that's one of the reasons why I enjoy working with Michelle. So thanks again, Michelle. I appreciate you being here. And thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Reach out if you have any questions. Everybody here at BME Crew is here to help, and you can visit us at bmecrew.com. But otherwise, we will see everybody on another episode.